You're listening to the Courage Hotline podcast. I'm your host, Candace Doby, leadership development strategist, courage coach, speaker, and author. And on this show, I take real questions from professionals who are stuck in a swirl of fear, doubt, and hesitation. Then I give them candid, coded advice and practical strategies to help them check their fear, conjure their courage, and tackle their peskiest professional problems. Whether you're navigating workplace politics, speaking up in high-stakes meetings, or just trying to bet on yourself, you're in the right place. We're back with another episode of the Courage Hotline podcast, and we have a new question from someone who has written into the show. So I am about to read that question now. This question says, how can I hold one of my administrators accountable for a meeting with me? I schedule weekly meetings, but something always comes up that prevents us from meeting. Inevitably, she shows up in my office unexpectedly, wanting to meet at the most inconvenient time and expecting me to drop everything. I've expressed my need to prioritize our time together, but I feel disrespected when I see her prioritizing other team members' meetings. How can I handle this situation? Oh, thank you for writing in and sharing this question with us, because I think it is something that comes up a lot. And this is really about, I think, a combination of delivering critical feedback and creating a boundary. So it sounds to me like what you really want to do is you want to hold her accountable, but you want to have this conversation with her where you are going to deliver some critical feedback that may be a tad bit hard for her to hear. Maybe what you're thinking about is, I want to hold her accountable, but I don't really want to create any tension between us because I have to work with this person and see this person every day. And so what I want to do is I want to give you a model that you can use when you do have this conversation with her, which is a conversation where you're going to be delivering what can be considered critical feedback. A technique, not really a technique, but a model that comes in handy when delivering critical feedback is the SBI model. So SBI stands for situation, behavior, and impact. Now, this model works really well because you are going to lead and have this conversation with facts. You're not going to leave a lot of room for assumptions or intentions, or you're not even going to leave a lot of room for emotions to flare up and to get out of hand or to get emotionally charged, because you're coming in with a structure, you're coming in with facts. So this is how the SBI model works. The situation comes first. The way that you can have this conversation and hold your administrator accountable is you just start the conversation with the situation. This is, over the past month, we have had 4 one-on-one calls or conversations scheduled, and 3 of them didn't happen. 3 of them didn't happen because you prioritized other meetings, or there were other things that came up that didn't allow us to have this scheduled time together. So that is the situation. The situation is the meetings on the calendar, they didn't happen. So really stating the situation is important, particularly for people who are wired to need evidence, who are wired for accuracy, who need for you to come to the conversation with examples or with data. And there are people out there who are wired like that. Even if you're not wired like that, I think that it is beneficial, particularly when you're having a critical conversation, to come to the table with specific examples rather than going into the conversation with generalities. Like, it's probably not going to be as impactful if you were to start this conversation and say, hey, I've just been noticing you haven't been showing up to these meetings, and gosh, it's been going on for a long time. And, when you start talking in generalities, what you're doing is you're giving a person an opportunity to go left, to go right in their brain. And really, they start creating their own narrative if you haven't filled in the blanks for them with clarity, with examples, with specificity, with accuracy. So that is what we are doing with naming the situation. It's that simple. The next part you're going to move into within this model is the behavior. So you're going to explicitly say what the administrator did. So you rescheduled meetings that we had on the calendar, protected time that we had on the calendar, and you prioritized, other things. And what happens when you do this is it requires me to pause what I'm doing, or it causes me to come out of flow from the projects that I'm working on to unexpectedly address your presence in my office. Essentially, that's what's happening. Now, you might want to use different words, but you want to share that behavior. You want to share that her coming in unexpectedly, it's causing you to pause on your work, to redirect your energy and attention and focus. And really, it's just kind of getting things out of whack and out of order when that happens. That is the behavior. The behavior is she's coming in unexpectedly and causing a ripple effect of things to happen. The last part of this model is the impact. So what is the impact of her behavior? What is the impact of her canceling your one-on-one meetings? And so we kind of got into that with the behavior when you're saying that you have to pause and kind of redirect your energy and focus from the projects you're working on to now her being in your office unexpectedly. Now, that's part of the impact, but really the impact is to the work. The impact is to you all being able to talk, discuss updates, discuss concerns, issues, questions, ideas. And when that can't happen in your one-on-one meetings, what happens in effect is that it's going to delay progress. It's going to delay updates that are necessary and needed for projects to move forward. So that is the impact to the work. And so this SBI model, it's very clear. It really, doesn't leave a lot of room for emotions to take over and things to go left or go sideways when you use this model. It's a very clear model. And so I want to offer this up to you for you to have this critical conversation with your teammate. Now, you specifically asked about accountability. And so the SBI model does not add in this last piece that I want to share with you, but I'm going to offer it up to you to add in. So it's the ask or the agreement. After you've gone through the situation, the behavior, and the impact, you can ask for agreement from your administrator. So what this looks like is you say something like, listen, the one-on-ones that we have on the schedule, it's meant to be protected time. It's meant for us to have our one-on-one time to go deep into the questions and ideas that we have to move our projects forward. So here's what I'd like to ask. I'd like to ask that we prioritize these meetings, that we really do protect the time unless there is an emergency that comes up. And if there is an emergency that comes up and we need to reschedule, my ask is that we reschedule on that same day, later that day, if that's, of course, what you want. But you want to, at the end of this, when we're talking about accountability, you want to make an ask, you want to get an agreement from your administrator. And you don't want just loose agreement. You don't want just passive agreement. You want actionable, assertive, verbal agreement. So think about it like this. Think about when you're on an airplane and there are one or two rows, exit rows, and the flight attendant comes by and asks everyone in the exit row if they are willing and able to assist if there was an unexpected event on the airplane and they needed to help get people off the plane. So the flight attendant asked that, and I've been on an exit row before. And what I know from sitting on an exit row is you cannot just nod your head. You can't just, kind of do a gesture with your body. No, you have to verbally agree. And the flight attendant will actually tell you that they need to hear a verbal yes, that you are willing and able to do this. And so similar to that, you want the same thing. You are asking the person that you're having this opportunity for growth with, you want to ask them flat out and plainly, do we have agreement on this? And you want to hear them affirmatively answer. You want a verbal answer. So that's the accountability part. So now moving forward, if it does not happen, you have this agreement that was, made intentionally in the moment. You have this agreement. So if this happens again, now you have something from which you can say, listen, we agreed, and if it's documented, but you can go from there. So that's what I want to offer and serve up. It's the SBI model for how to structure that critical feedback. And it's also getting the ask or the agreement at the end of that. So there we go. Now, there are a couple other things that you can do to make this more effective, depending on who you are working with, who the administrator is, and what her personality is. So you can layer on top of that SBI model, you can layer on a values reflection. And a values reflection is literally reflecting a value, a personal value, that person that you're talking to, a value that they have, or a team value. You reflect that value back to them. So what this would look like, in addition to the SBI model, is you would say to the person, you would say, let's say your team has a value of reliability. Like, you often talk about reliability. It's written in your values that you are positioning yourselves to rely and depend on each other. So what you want to do is reflect that right back to the administrator and say, listen, I know one of the things that we value on this team is reliability. And right now, the way in which we are working, that value is not being upheld. You know, we're not executing, there's probably a better word, but executing on that value. Basically, what you want to do is you want to allow an opportunity for the values that this person has or the team has to resurface and recenter on that value. And the reason why this can be really impactful and effective is because we are humans, and humans like to behave congruently with who they believe themselves to be. So if the team has clarified that one of the team values is reliability, and that you've all made an agreement that you're going to be reliable on this team, then this person, there's some part of them that wants to behave congruently with that value. And so in this conversation, you can resurface that value and easily, get her to reconnect with it. So that's one thing that you can add or layer or stack on top of the SBI model. The second thing that I want to mention on top of the two things that we've already mentioned is setting a boundary, because I also hear that that is something that you are wanting to do with this person. So let's say that, there is a time in which a meeting doesn't happen. This person comes back into your office unexpectedly, trying to, catch up in the moment. And you're like, that ain't happening. Like, I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, I don't have the capacity right now to give you attention. This is what's going on in your head. This is not what you say to this person, okay? This is what's going on in your head. So what you can do here is, you can set a boundary. And when that person comes into your office unexpectedly, you can say, thank you for circling back with me, since we did miss our call earlier today, but I won't be able to talk right now. I won't be able to talk in this moment. We're going to need to reschedule a time, and put the onus and the initiative on this person for them to then reschedule the time. If you schedule the meeting and the meeting is missed, it shouldn't be your responsibility to then go and reschedule the meeting. The person that you are working with can do that. So you can set a boundary, and a boundary that can be clear. And so these are some of the things that you can combine and stack together, or you can just use the SBI model, or maybe the values reflection might be a tool that works the best with the person that you're working with. So I do hope this helps. I hope these tools help you, and you got this. You got this. So anyway, this is what I like to say. If you do try these tools and you find some success with them, or you don't find success with them, let me know. Right back into the show and let me know how it goes. Want to take up more space at work without second guessing yourself? Join the Risk Fitness Club, my private community for ambitious professionals like you who are ready to speak up, step up, and show up courageously every single day. We're talking live workshops, expert-led trainings, and a crew that roots for you and your bold moves. Head to CandaceDoby.com to learn more and get on the list. We're back with some courage candy. These are the bite-sized insights on courage that you can tuck in your back pocket, put in your purse, and pull them out whenever you need a taste of courage motivation. Giving critical feedback takes courage. You're stepping into a conversation that could get uncomfortable, and that's why having a simple, clear strategy matters. One of the best is the SBI model, and that stands for situation, behavior, impact. Here's how it works. First, describe the situation, when and where it happened. Then you name the behavior, exactly what the other person did or didn't do. And finally, you explain the impact, how the behavior affected you, the work, or the team. So this structure keeps you out of the weeds, it keeps you out of personal attacks, and it focuses on the facts. And when you're clear about the situation, the behavior, and the impact, you give your feedback the best chance of being heard and acted on. Want to be more confident speaking up at work? Start by taking one intentional risk a day. That's what the Risk a Day Challenge is all about. 21 days, 21 risks to help you build the habit of courageous action. No fluff, just movement. If you're ready to train your courage like a muscle, head to CandaceDoby.com and check out the challenge. That's it for today's call on the Courage Hotline podcast. If you got something out of this episode, then be sure to share it with a friend or a colleague who could use a boost of courage. And if you've got your own professional challenge that you want me to weigh in on, visit CandaceDoby.com and leave me a message. The Courage Hotline is written by Candace Doby, produced by Karan Pimpale, music by Lamar Shirley, and production assistance from Monica Dulay.